I had a mother tell me one time her child wanted to talk to her about something that day, and they were killed that night. And she always has to wonder, what was that talk going to be about?
Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Ellen Pitt. If you haven't watched part 1, I encourage you to go back and begin there. But if you're continuing with us, thank you. In the first half of our conversation, Ellen shared stories and experiences that remind us why this work matters. Now we continue that conversation because the impact of impaired driving doesn't end when the crash is over. And neither does our responsibility to remember the people whose lives were changed forever. This is Blue Lights and Broken Glass, Beyond the Crash. Let's continue. Ellen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a registered nurse, retired. I'm not paid, hired, or elected. I probably need to make that clear. Back about 2000, late 2000 and up until 2003, one of my grandchildren was the subject of one of the most high-profile DWI child endangerment cases ever covered in the news. She's alive and well, but it was a battle I never dreamed I'd have to fight. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't realize that to rescue a child or to survive an impaired driving episode or to get justice for anything that happens, you think everybody's on your team, and then you have that, you become disillusioned, because as we were going through the process of trying to get that child to safety and get the offender away from other people where he needed to be, I began to realize that it was going to be a battle. Not everybody was on my team. Mm-hmm. And there was 1,000 different ways for everything to go wrong.
I think this is kind of a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think that victims' families and victims ever get over the loss?
No. I mean, they move on and they live their life. They do what they have to do. But no, it's the outrage, I think, of knowing that somebody made this decision to go out and do whatever they wanted to do and party or get drunk or whatever. And that whatever's inflicted on somebody else doesn't seem to matter. But no, they move on. And one of the reasons when we first started doing the candlelight service out here, we do that a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And it evolved over the years into a family. Rebecca Justice always says this is the club nobody wants to be in.
Right. Yeah.
But they come together every year. And one of the things that I could see early on is some of the people felt guilty celebrating Christmas or celebrating anything with their loved one just jerked away from them like they had been. So that gives families an opportunity to honor their person and to acknowledge what happened and to remind everybody of what happened. Mm-hmm. And they can then move through the holidays knowing that they didn't forget their loved one.
Right.
And so it's become a tradition here in the mountains. This year we'll be doing it for the we did it in 2003 the first time. So 23 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's important, but what you see the worst times for them is on those milestones, like a birthday or the anniversary date of the death. And so we try to acknowledge, like July 24th, we'll be going out all these years later to acknowledge what happened to this 16-year-old. And it's important. It's important to the mother, but the officers that come, sometimes it's the officers when we do candlelight services and those kind of things, memorial events. Sometimes the officers there are the officers that actually worked that wreck, that actually had to go knock on that door and give this devastating news to somebody, knowing that their life's never going to be the same. And so when they come together after all these years, and it's just a reminder that this didn't have to happen, and yet here we are, still fighting these same battles for not just to get these people off the road. And in my later days of doing what I do, I became an ambassador for all the sobriety courts because for some people, that's the way forward into the future.
Right. Is there anything that you have learned from families that maybe has changed your perspective over the years? As long as I've known you, it seems like your perspective has pretty much stayed the same.
Yeah, I'm not a, I was baptized by a highway patrol chaplain after being in court that day with one of the most horrific cases of them all. And I had to battle with myself because I'm a conditional forgiver. I wanted people to admit what they did, pay the consequences, apologize, do their time, and then I could think about forgiving them after all of that's done.
Right.
And I haven't been able to change that at all.
What emotions would you say you see in victims most often?
With this type of death, you see the anger. People get mad if somebody dies from cancer, and you are angry, especially if it's a child or something. But in this, there's somebody to really be angry at, and sometimes that anger is directed to the courts, and rightfully so, because I look around me sometimes in the court system. And I think you couldn't run a business like this. You couldn't run anything else in the world like this runs. You know this. And so families, they feel betrayed. They're angry. And that loss, I guess it's that I had a mother tell me one time that her child had told her they wanted to talk to her about something that day. And then they were killed that night before they could get to talk to the mother. And she always has to wonder, what was that talk going to be about? What was important that they called me and said, I need to talk to you today? I'll never know what that talk would have been.
That would be hard.
So it's just the suddenness and sometimes they're suffering. Sometimes you have those victims who have catastrophic injuries and they live for a week, 2 weeks. Angela Woody lived for 10 months. And she left behind a 14-year-old son. And one of my, I guess, it was hard for me. I try to be real strong, and I would never let anybody see me cry because I'm not going to do it. But her son, I was also her nurse. She was my crime victim, and I was her nurse too.
Right. Yeah.
And it was his birthday, her son, and he came out in the hall. I had my medicine cart, and he came out in the hall and said, would I come in and eat birthday cake with him? And so there was me, him, Angela, and her sister that was raising her son because she couldn't leave the hospital. And we celebrated his 14th birthday. And when I went back out to my medicine cart in the hall, I cried a little bit because I thought, if she was at home, she'd be having a birthday party for her son, and they'd be doing something really special on his birthday. Yeah. And here she is in the hospital. Her sister's raising her son because she can't get better. And the girl that hit her had been charged 5 times. And on the day that she hit Angela, she had been charged in Buncombe County just 72 days before that. And it was not alcohol, wasn't the substance, it was drugs. So her blood was sitting on a shelf down in the Raleigh lab. Probably wouldn't have been assigned to anybody for a year or two.
Yeah.
And in that 72-day time frame, she went out and hit Angela and her son. So that's the day and the case that we all said, this is not going to continue.
Yeah.
One way or the other, we're getting a crime lab or somebody's going to do something. And they did.
Yeah.
They appropriated, we had that summit, I think it was 2013, and they appropriated $19 million, I think, for a Western crime lab that right at that time. They appropriated some more money to cross-train analysts in the lab so they could do alcohol and or drugs and or DNA or whatever needed to be done. And then it wasn't too long after that, in the grand scheme of things, I guess in government terms, maybe 2017 when the lab was finally built and opened up.
Yeah.
And so there we all were at the grand opening, not believing that it really happened, but it really did.
Yeah.
So I always want to say to that lawyer that told me they're never going to spend the money and put a crime lab out here. I'm like, oh, I wish you had to go over here and tour this beautiful crime lab.
Yeah. I wish I'd been able to be there for that grand opening because we all look forward to it so much. But I was busy in a class.
Oh, I'm sure. But it's made so much difference, and now it's unheard of for an alcohol blood test to be there for a year or something.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
things move
yeah.
really fast. Have you seen examples of what you would describe as incredible resilience from a victim or family?
Well, I'll give you a little scenario. When I first started reviewing the Buncombe County, at that time they called it DWI Treatment Court. They called it 2 or 3 other things over the years, but that initially started out as the treatment court. And so the mother of a young man who was killed by a repeat offender, she would hear me talking about it, and she wanted to know about it. And I was like, I asked the judge first if she wants to come and sit in on one of these court sessions. Could we do that? And they're like, yes, it's open to the public, and you can bring her, and we'll make sure she understands what the purpose of this court is about. So I took her over there for a court session, and she actually got up and spoke to, you're talking about people, this is the mother of someone who was killed. by somebody just like these people that are out in the audience or the gallery. They haven't killed anybody yet.
Yeah.
So they're in this court,
Yeah.
and they're trying to stop that. She spoke to them, and then the judges over there, all the court staff just surrounded her, explained everything to her, made sure she understood it. And now she is a big cheerleader for the sobriety court. And I think that takes a lot of courage, I guess, to say these people are going down the same road as the person that killed my child. And I'm going to do, if this stops them, I'm going to support it, even if it's hard.
Yeah. Why do you think that, looking forward in this podcast, I hope I'm able to bring a lot of information to people. But moreover, I think my hope is that I'll be able to shine a light on the victims and what they go through. Why do you think that it's important for people to hear directly from victims and families?
I guess everybody goes around thinking it could never be you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking, we're sitting here talking today, we're not thinking we're going to walk out that door in a few minutes and find out my husband, your wife, somebody you know or close to, that it happened right to you. And so I think when you see this ordinary person that's just going along living their life and going to work and coming home, and you hear them about when they were told this happened out of the blue, nothing you ever dreamed of would ever happen to you, and you always hope that somebody that's out there, maybe out night clubbing or whatever, or making that decision whether or not to get in the car or whether or not to let somebody else drive, that they'll hear that person talking and say, I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the one that takes your child. I don't want to be the one that takes your husband. I'll just get a taxi or do something. I'll walk, whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At BC Automotive, it starts with family and a commitment to treating every customer like one of our own. Enjoy a comfortable waiting area complete with snacks and drinks while your vehicle is being serviced. From everyday maintenance and repairs to tires, custom work, and serious performance upgrades, we have the equipment, experience, and passion to get the job done right. Whether you need dependable service to keep you on the road, or you're ready to take your ride to the next level, BC Automotive is built for it. We don't just work on cars and trucks. We build relationships, solve problems, and take pride in every vehicle that comes through our doors. BC Automotive in Bryson City, from daily drivers to high performance. We don't just fix it, we make it better. BC Automotive is a proud founding sponsor of Blue Lights and Broken Glass, beyond the crash. I think that sometimes we're guilty of spouting off statistics in hopes that it's going to change somebody. But I don't think that there's anything that will affect another person more than hearing from someone who it's personally affected. And so I think that's a big reason that I want to do what I'm doing with this podcast. I want to be able to give victims a voice. I want to be able to give people an opportunity to hear directly from those victims, and they can see how it has affected them. And maybe, just maybe, that'll make a bit of a difference in somebody.
Well, you hope that people like court officials and legislators, those kind of people, would hear what you are saying, and that those people would be much more aware, because sometimes over the years, and I know you've seen this, the crime victim is at the bottom of the totem pole in the court process. they're not treated very well. It depends on where you are and what kind of tone has been set in the office of the district attorney. And they are the last one considered when they're talking about continuances and whatever goes on. One of the most frequent complaints I've had over the years from all over different places is the crime victim not being notified or not being notified in time to get off from work or arrange childcare and things about court hearings. And so when my first initial meeting with the crime victim, and I worked through all this with Mr. Bonfoy in his office, and of course Ron Moore and some of these other DAs when I first started out. When I first meet with a crime victim, I tell them we're going to make an appointment. We're going to go in and see the DA and people. You have to remember that you are the most important person in the courtroom. It's not the lawyers, the judges, it's not anybody else in there. You are the most important person in this process. We're going to be seated at a table with some real important looking people, but you are the most important person at that table. They're all being paid. They are going to do a job. They're going to do whatever, but your life is never going to be the same. You're not being paid to be there. You've lost something. You've paid the ultimate cost to something. And so that's the kind of tone that I try to set and take, and I believe that nobody in that courtroom ever is more important than the crime victim.
Yeah, I agree. On a side note, you're right. The crime victim is the most important thing in the room. And when I'm teaching my students about when they go testify in court, I always tell them that I want them to remember the victims when they're testifying, and that they need to be, as a witness, they need to be a confident witness and a competent witness. And when they're testifying, particularly when they're testifying and speaking to a jury, they need to speak with the kind of confidence that says, what I have to say in this moment is the most important thing that there is to say in this moment. And much like the victim has to know that they are the most important thing in that trial, the jury needs to be able to see that. The judge needs to be able to see that. And you're absolutely right. That victim needs to be considered as the most important thing there, the most important person there in that moment. I'm going to throw some rapid fire questions at you.
Oh, my. I'm usually the one doing that.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. First one. One word that describes the impact of impaired driving. Just one word.
Never ending. I guess it's that one word.
Close enough, yeah. One thing that every driver should think about before getting behind the wheel. Every driver, whether they've been drinking or not. Every driver.
Is this one word?
Doesn't have to be. Short answer.
I guess over the years I've learned when I get behind the wheel and go out on the road, I assume that everybody around me is either drunk or smoking marijuana or on some kind of prescription medicines that they shouldn't be driving with. That's how I drive.
I do the same thing. This might be a difficult one. Most important lesson you learn from victims.
I guess that I can't. I can't give up. I won't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Even if their case goes wrong in the court or something, I still don't give up.
Most inspiring person you've met through your work.
Gosh, there's been a lot of people. I go back. I guess I go back to Paul Glover and the first time I really ever had any kind of awareness of who he really was.
Mm-hmm.
And strangely enough, that's in the case that
Yeah.
I brought the photograph today.
Many people don't know Paul Glover was my boss for a long time, and he has inspired all of us. And he's a pretty special guy. And kind of a funny little story. I was in court testifying one time, and the defense attorney, oftentimes they try to make it sound like maybe there's somebody else besides me that might be more qualified to testify on that matter. And as defense attorney asked me, I think this was the direction he was going. He said, "Do you know Paul Glover?" I thought about that for a second because Paul was my boss. And then I said, "I trained Paul Glover."
Which is not.
And that's the truth, because when Paul first came to work for us, he was not a breath test chemical analyst. And so he had to go through chemical analysis school, and I taught him in that class. So I trained Paul Glover.
Yeah, he did something in that case, and I won't describe it because it'd make a lot of people look really bad. But he did something on his own to support me and that mother who'd lost her child. Later on, I guess I realized that he the day that he came walking down the hall for me and this mother, it was in Haywood County, and he'd driven all the way out here and spent the night before, and that he did all this on his own. And at that time, I didn't realize that he could be testifying all over the country, that he was renowned for all the things that he's renowned for. And he was just acting like a regular guy that came to help us get to the other side of something awful, and that he did that without a subpoena, without anything except to be there for me and that mother.
Yeah.
So I've never forgotten that.
That's Paul. I and a few of my coworkers have affectionately referred to him as Dad.
Oh,
Because he very much was a father figure for us in our work.
he was very much like you in that I'd called him. I tried not to be too much of a little bee in your bonnet, but a lot of times over the years, when I couldn't understand something in a trial or something, I've called him, and he could answer my questions in terms that I could understand. And I think what a privilege it's been for me to know people like him or people like you, that if I have questions from a court case or questions from a crime victim, no matter what day or night or whatever, that you will help me. I know that y'all know, I guess, what I try to do, but sometimes there's things that I have to have an immediate answer, or feel like I have to have an immediate answer.
Yeah.
And what a privilege it was to have him and still do if I needed him today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What gives you hope?
I guess as hard as it is to get anything done in the legislature, we've had some successes. The magistrate education bill, I point to that one. Come January, there's going to be some legislation introduced, I hope, that will pass. But I have to keep trying to believe that somebody at every level in the lawmaking process can understand what you do, what I do, what all these officers are out here trying to do, and do the common sense things that prevent. And we've had such great success with continuous alcohol monitoring pretrial. I hope that's going to happen with drugs other than alcohol, because sometimes if getting stopped and getting arrested for driving while impaired is your first encounter with somebody that's going to send you through continuous monitoring through the sobriety court to get you off of whatever you're on that's so important that you took your life and everybody else's life in your hands like that. I have faith in the technology and the training. We just need people to get busy down there in the legislature and pass some common sense, life-saving, tax dollar-saving law.
Right. Yeah. If every listener remembered only one thing from this episode, what would you want it to be?
You just don't want to break somebody's heart. You know, you go out and have a party, or maybe you smoke a marijuana cigarette or whatever. I would hope they would weigh that out and think about, is it really worth breaking somebody's heart, changing their whole life, and maybe make a different choice.
Okay, last question. If someone is listening right now who thinks impaired driving could never affect them or their family, what would you want them to know?
I just got done looking at what was going on a year ago today in Madison County, somewhere around 6:45 in the evening. You had some cyclists, they're just going about their routine day, practicing on their bicycles and riding. They're doing everything right. They got everything safety and doing everything right. Never, ever dreaming that a huge dump truck was going to come across the road, all the way across, and hit them head on. And the two of them died immediately. And that you never dreaming, you're just going about your day, doing whatever you usually do. It might be going to the grocery store. It might be picking your kids up at school. You might be going home from here today, and that you're going to be on the road with somebody that thought it was okay to maybe stop at a brewery and drink at lunchtime, or that's still drunk from the night before. Or so I would just tell people, you probably think this is funny, but I've just seen so many things over the years. And of course, it's in the news every day. Anywhere you turn on the news, somebody has killed somebody driving drunk or driving on other drugs. You have to just act like everybody could be impaired.
Very good. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of our podcast. But I want to ask you one last question. Is there anything that you think I should have asked that I didn't?
I can't think of anything.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. I know it's taken some time out of your day, and you're a very busy woman. I know you are. So I thank you very much, and we very much appreciate you.
Well, thank you for your patience and wisdom over all these years, because, as you know, I'll call anybody at any hour.
I expect you would.
Of the day or night. So.
Sometimes you'll call me and my wife will go, "Who is that at this time of night?" It's Ellen.
I know.
You're the only woman she's okay with calling me that time of night. So.
Yeah. I try not to have to do it, but then sometimes if I'm going to, I call it going on the warpath, and so do some other people. But if I'm getting ready to go on the warpath at 7 o'clock the next morning, and you know me, I don't go unprepared.
Mm-hmm.
If I send an email or write a letter or whatever to some dignitary, whoever it might be, I have done all the due diligence, and sometimes to get that done, and like I said before, it really never ends.
Mm-hmm.
I could get a call when I go out the door, so could you, about a fatal wreck, or I could get a call the other night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's a distraught grandmother just torn all to pieces because the mother is driving impaired with the children in the car. She's afraid to call social services because she thinks they'll take the children out of the home. And so there's all kinds of matters like that that have to get straightened out one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's the other.
Yeah. Sometimes it is. All right. Thank you. If these conversations moved you, I hope you will carry it with you the next time you reach for your car keys. Remember the names. Remember the families. Remember that every empty seat at a dinner table began with someone believing they were okay to drive. Impaired driving isn't an accident. It's a choice. And every choice has consequences that reach far beyond the crash scene. If this episode causes just one person to call for a ride, hand over their car keys, or stop a friend from driving impaired, then someone we've never met may get to go home because of it. That's why we're here. Thank you to Ellen Pitt for sharing her heart, her experience, and her unwavering commitment to victims and survivors. If this episode meant something to you, please subscribe. Share it with someone you care about, and join us as we continue telling the stories that deserve to be remembered. Because behind every flashing blue light and every piece of broken glass, there is a story. There's a family. There's a life forever changed. And together, we can help make sure there are fewer of those stories to tell. I'm Dan Cutler. For the victims, real people, real stories, real impact.